All right, I think we're ready to get started. Welcome to this session where we're going to take you through remote management of a Nano Server.
So my name is Aleksandar Nikolic. I'm a Cloud and Data Center Management MVP, also Microsoft Azure MVP, co-founder of PowerShellMagazine.com and community manager of the oldest community, PowerShell-related community site, PowerShell.com. And here is
my name is Jan Egil. I work as a lead architect at the infrastructure team at Crayon, where I focus on automation. I'm also a Cloud and Data Center Management MVP, which is the category they consolidated, for example, PowerShell MVPs into last year. And I'm also a member of the editorial board over at PowerShellMagazine.com, where I also write some articles.
And during this session, you can call us Nano Brothers.
Yeah, same T-shirt.
So our presentation is based mostly on demos. So we'll have just a few slides as a little bit of an introduction, and then we will go through a lot of those demos. You will see a bunch of them. We will present to you how to do deployment and remote management of it with the PowerShell in the same sessions. Then we will talk about how to create a DNS server on Nano Server, how to manage it with a server manager, how to build a Hyper-V and manage Hyper-V on Nano Server, then how to use PowerShell DSC on Nano Server. We will show you steps for updating Nano Server as well, how to build Nano in Azure VM, and then also how to use emergency management services. So there will be a lot of content, a lot of demos, but if you have some questions, please ask during the session. No problem about that at all, okay? Don't wait at the end. So what is Nano Server? Nano Server is a new installation option for Windows Server. It's a server operating system that it's built for cloud. You cannot run all the things that you like and that you used to run on full Windows Server or Windows Server with the desktop experience, which is a new name for that server that has everything on it. So Nano Server is built for Cloud Fabric and infrastructure. At its first version, it will support clustering and storage, networking. You can run Hyper-V on it. You can run born in a cloud applications on it, like ASP.NET stuff. And you can build containers on it. That's all very new. Those are things that are really exciting. One of the things that is really, really new for us is that Nano Server is the first headless server created by Microsoft. What does that mean? That means that you cannot interactively log on to a machine. You need to manage it remotely. And that's a huge change. So if you are not familiar with PowerShell remoting, it's the right time to do that stuff and start learning. There is no RDP access to Nano Server, right? So forget about that. How can we manage Nano Server? The people that like GUIs are still kind of here, and they will support some of those tools as well. So for remote management, you can use server management to some extent, and they are creating a new remote server management tools. They will be web-based. You can see the interface, how it looks like. We will not demo that stuff. It's still in a kind of a private preview, the things that are doing right now. And it will be also cloud-based. We will see how that works. You can also use System Center Virtual Machine Manager as well. The main point for managing Nano Server is PowerShell remoting, in combination also with SIM sessions, which is kind of the two best ways to remotely manage everything. The best thing about Nano Server is actually that everything that you will learn to manage Nano Server, you can apply to a server with a desktop experience. That's great stuff. So everything that you will learn, it's applicable to any Windows Server operating system. You can also use PowerShell DSC to manage it. You can use a PowerShell Web Access and the great new thing called PowerShell Direct. And we will talk about that a little bit more during the demo, so you will see how that works.
Yeah, also about the RSMT, or the new remote server management tools. They haven't disclosed much information about it yet, but they showed a small demo of it during a TechEd presentation. So here is basically a screenshot from that presentation. So the point of this is to eliminate the need to ever sit in front of a server or log on to it using a GUI, using RDP, because it's not possible here. So as you can see, this is web-based, so this is in a web browser. And it includes replacements for tools that are traditionally local only. That's most of the reasons that many log on to the server today, to RDP into it, open Task Manager, check the Performance tab to see CPU usage, RAM, and so on. Also other local-only tools such as Device Manager when you're going to update drivers, the Registry Editor, Event Viewer. There are a lot of tools that will be available in this new web-based console. And the great news with this is that it will also support server core and server with a desktop experience, as Aleksandar just mentioned.
What firewall ports do you have?
This is using, I believe, WSMan or the same as PowerShell remoting.
I think so.
I think so. It's no public information yet, but I think it's only one TCP port, so you don't have DCOM and all those dynamic ports anymore. That's, yeah.
It's just amazing that you think about it, that we can run a registry editor in a browser, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome? I mean,
You
so
also-
crazy, actually. I think one of the biggest challenges for them was actually to build a device manager in a web browser. So we'll get all those tools so we can use them, but that's not scalable. That's the problem, right? So we need to use something that it's better, right? This is okay for single server or a couple of them, but if you need to manage a bunch of them, then you need to use something else, right?
Yeah. And also here we also get a PowerShell console in the web interface. If you hit the PowerShell tab, it will open a window with a PowerShell console, so it's much like PowerShell Web Access.
Right.
Yeah. Then we're going over to some demos, and after that I think we have a few more demos. So I think it will basically be only demos from now. But we will have to change computers a few times.
Yeah. So we will start first with remote management, and then later I will show you how to actually deploy one using a client Hyper-V solution here. So what I have here on my machine is a Nano Server in a VM. And because it's a workgroup environment, I need to change a trusted host list and add the IP address of my Nano Server, or a range for my Nano Servers in this case. So just to show you what I have in a trusted host list is a bunch of IP addresses for my Nano Azure VMs and Nano VMs on my local machine. So that's the first thing that you need to do. Then I will use my Nano Server IP address, specify a password for it, and then I can use a test WSMan to check if I can even connect. Text WSMan, if you haven't heard about it before, is like a ping for WSMan protocol, or for WinRM, for PowerShell remoting. If you authenticate to that Nano Server, you get also information about the operating system version. So you will see that I have here Nano Server TP4. I will create now a new SIM session, and you can see that because I use a remote machine, it goes over WSMan. So you need to open only one port in your firewall to make a connection. Thanks to that session, I can now use getSIM instance commandlet to get various information from WMI repository. So in this case, I will get information about the name of that machine and the caption. This Tuva thing is a working name for Nano Server that used to be the smallest country in Europe, and at the beginning of 20th century, I think they joined Russia. So they still use that Tuva thing here. You can also run very complex queries and get information. So it's not just like a simple things. You can do whatever you want. And because we have a bunch of commands they're SIM-based and they support SIM session, you can use SIM session with those commandlets to get the proper information. So here, what I'm getting is information about a certain firewall rules. Are they enabled or not that I'm interested in? So as you can see, I can do a lot remotely. The best thing is that I can even use some of the commandlets that don't even exist on Nano Server. So for example, SMB share module is not present on Nano Server, but I can get information about shares. because it will go to WMI repository and fetch that information. I can create a new share, and just to check if it's successfully created, it is. So that's just amazing that even if those modules are not there, I can use from my machine commandlets just because the WMI repository is there. Oh, no. Let me remove this. I get a proper message if I want to really do that. And now I will switch to PowerShell remoting, right? So for PowerShell remoting, the approach is pretty much similar, right? Here, I'm creating PS sessions to connect to Nano Server. It lasts a little bit longer than a SIM session because SIM session is created on a client side, and PS sessions are created on the remote side. So how the session looks like now, you see that it's open, it's connected to my Nano Server, to a full, and I can use invoke command to get information, in this case, about some services that are running. And you can see, because it's a Nano Server, it's much smaller, we have less services than on a server with a desktop experience. The really cool thing here that I want to show you when you work with the ISC and Nano Server is that here you can see all commandlets that I have on a laptop. And the list of modules is quite long. But if I establish interactive session to my Nano Server, the list will be updated, so I will get information only about modules that exist on Nano Server. Isn't that awesome? We didn't have that before. This is a new thing. I'm really excited about that because it just works. If you're interested in the list of available modules from a console, you can just run it like this, then get information, okay? How many commandlets and functions are present right now in TP4? 776. So that number is growing from every single release. Who knows how many we will get with the RTM, but for now we have 776. To support working remotely with Nano Server, they also introduce some new parameters for copy item. So we have now 2 session and from session parameter. With the from session parameter, I can fetch some files from Nano Server and put them on my local machine. And you can see here that I got some setup file. Or if I want to copy something to Nano Server, I can use copy item with a 2 session parameter, specifying session, and then that file is now on a Nano Server. When I establish interactive session to my Nano Server, I can even edit that file that exists on a remote machine using psedit function that it's updated for working remotely. So when you open it, you get this remote file here. So it's actual remote file there. If I change something and save it, it's saved on Nano Server. All from the local environment. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So this is how we manage Nano Server. Let's talk a little bit about how to build one, okay? So I will switch to some paths first here to position myself properly so that I can load a module that contains commands for working with it. You get this module on ISO file in a Nano Server folder. So it's not something that I've created. It's created by Microsoft. New Nano Server image is the commandlet that you will use for building VHD or VHDX Nano image. Let me name my Nano Server, specify IP address, no IP address, but password. Create a path, and then I will run new Nano Server image. There is a lot of things going on right now. It will need like 30 seconds to build the VHDX with additional packages, because when you build a base image, it's really small and doesn't have a lot of functionalities. It has those basic things that you need. But if you need some additional things, like DSC, support for Hyper-V, you can add those packages to that image. Right now, I'm building just the base one that can run as a client, as a guest VM, okay? So the only package that I'm adding to it is to support running Nano as a VM machine. You can see that a lot of things are going here that's mounting something and then applying things, and I think that we need just a few more seconds. He's now adding that package that supports client Nano VM. And I think we are done. Just a few more seconds. The whole image is really small. Actually is less than 450 megabytes. And we are done. So let me see how big it is. 443 megabytes for the fully functional VHDX that we can use to build Nano VM. So I will now build a Nano VM. I will start it. And then I can use now a PowerShell Direct. Because I didn't set any networking stack on this Nano VM, I don't have access through a network to my Nano machine. So I can use a PowerShell Direct that goes over VM bus to communicate with my Nano server and fix some things. So I will fix IP address right now so that I can use PowerShell remoting for managing that machine. So even if you make some mistakes, it's not that everything is lost. First, I will check PS version table, so just to prove to you that I have a TP4 machine there with a PowerShell 5. And then let's check the IP address on a Nano VM. The information that I will get is that the IP address is wrong, so I cannot communicate with it. I need to set it to 10.10.0.45. I will establish now enter PS session using PowerShell Direct because now it supports two new parameters, VM name and VM ID. It doesn't use WSMan, it goes over different protocol, it goes over VM bus. So now I'm there, you can see that the prompt has changed. I can set now the IP address, give it some seconds just to check. And now the IP address is correct. I can leave PowerShell Direct session and use a regular PowerShell remoting to connect. So if everything is okay, I should get Nano TP405 as a result. Okay? So now everything is fixed, everything works properly. I can use also interactive session, get some processes, and everything works. So let me just go back to here, and with this, my deployment and remoting demo is over. Do we have some questions about all this? Do you like this? That we can do a lot of those things remotely without touching PowerShell, without touching Nano Server? I hope you've at least seen how Nano Server looks like at the previous session that Mike Reseller presented. So, sure.
What do you do if you lose network connectivity to a physical machine? For instance, where you can't remote to it? And
You need to wait for emergency recovery part of a demo that Jan will present. Okay?
How do you deploy it on a physical server? You created a VHDX image here, but do you do so for a physical, or do you have an installed menu?
Want to share experience?
Yeah, you can use boot from VHDX. You can basically boot a physical server from a VHDX too if you use if you edit the boot manager to point to a VHDX file. It's also possible to apply the image to a physical disk, which is partitioned and activated as a boot drive. I think you can just use the regular techniques like the dism module in PowerShell or dism.exe. But for my testing purposes, I've been using boot from VHDX. So the next demo is about managing a server role on a Nano server. And here I'm going to talk about the DNS server role. As Aleksandar just mentioned, you will need to explicitly state what you want to be available inside of the Nano server image. So here I have some example of how I can build a Nano server image by using the PowerShell module for creating it. And here you can see that I specify that I want the Nano server DNS package installed. If you think about a desktop server with a desktop experience that you're used to today. You're used to that all of the binaries are there. So if you have a domain controller, the binaries for IIS is still on the box, but it's not installed. So this is kind of the opposite direction or the opposite approach, that you have to also inject the binaries before you can actually install the role. So here I say that I want the DNS package installed. This will run for a few minutes. I've already done it because you saw the process that was just demonstrated. So here I'm connecting to the virtual machine running Nano Server with the DNS server installed. I'm creating a PowerShell session to it, and I enter that PS session with the enter PS session. Here we can see what modules are available. So let's see if we can see the PowerShell module for DNS. That should be there when we have installed or enabled the role, but here we can see that it's only the DNS client that is available now. So let's have a look at a few different places. We can have a look at get Windows package to see what packages is installed. So here we can see that the DSE package is there, and here we can see that the DNS package is also there, but it's not enabled yet. So we will have to look at get Windows optional feature and specify the -online switch to check the running OS. Here we can see that DNS server full role is there, but it's disabled. So it's basically what's the state of it is on a server with a desktop experience. It's there, but it's not enabled. So we're going to do that with the enable Windows optional feature commandlet. And when that is completed, we are going to run get module list available again, and then we should see that the DNS server module is there. There you can see it. So you have all the DNS server commandlets available on Nano Server as well as on the server with a desktop experience. So let's have a look at what's available. That's basically the same commands that you're used to when you're working with the DNS server in 2012 or later. For testing purposes, just let us create a zone called NICconf.demo and also add a DNS record to it. Then we go out of the PowerShell session. So now we try to use from the local machine that I'm running this demo from, use resolve DNS name. It's basically the same as NSLOOKUP in PowerShell to look up the name that we created. So here you can see that I got the proper response from the file that I created. You can also use familiar GUI-based tools such as the DNS Manager MMC console that works just as you're used to. So one point to mention here before I close up this demo is that here you see that we have to create zone files because you can't use Active Directory integrated zones when this machine is not a domain controller. And I suspect that many of you will ask, can we run a domain controller on Nano Server? That is probably the most requested role, I think, for Nano Server. We expect it to come sometime, but they haven't said anything officially. Personally, I don't expect it to be available for RTM later this year, but I expect it to be added sometime in the future. But when that comes, you can also use DNS integrated zones.
If you have some features or roles that you would like to see on Nano Server and they are not there, you can always go to user voice forum for Nano Server and just submit a suggestion and people will vote for it. So if it gets a lot of votes, the team will consider it. So they always look what's happening there. In next demo, I will talk about how to use Server Manager to manage Nano Server. What are the possibilities? So as we promote PowerShell as a PowerShell guys to remotely manage Nano Server, we don't have anything against GUI tools, but GUI tools need to support remote management. You don't expect to install something on Nano Server and then manage it that way. You need to install those things on your own admin machines and use those tools against Nano Server. That's the point. So when we have a server manager, I have here an environment when I have one management server and I have a Nano Server and they are in a workgroup environment. Okay? So I cannot leverage some benefits of a domain, but because this is the hardest environment to show you, I wanted to show you that it's what is the process to actually edit it. So when you open a server manager, you need to go to all server, go to add servers, and then you need to specify the IP address of your Nano server. And it will try to find it, and it will not find it, but you say, like, do you really want to edit anyway? And you will say yes, and then you will edit it. Once when it's there, I already edited, because it's a work group environment. First thing is, again, to set trusted host list and add IP address of your Nano server to that list. And then you need to specify credentials for managing. So right-click on a IP address of your Nano server, manage as, and then you will specify a local admin account and a password for Nano there. I did that already. Once when you have it, you will see that some of those sections are populated with information. So you get events, you get services as well. You will not get, for now, any information about best practices or performance, but you will also get information about roles and features. I already added some of the roles and features here because RSET roles and features and file server roles and features are available when you go here, click on a right-click and add roles and features. So you can add only those two. The others are hidden from you, and that's not the way how you add functionality. You add functionality through the packages, as you have seen through those demos already. So what's available here, and it works. Restart server works. Computer management doesn't work. Remote desktop connection doesn't work, as we said. It's not supported at all. Windows PowerShell works. So if you choose a Windows PowerShell, you need to specify a password. Wait a minute. I really pick a long one. And you will get interactive PowerShell session to Nano server, and from that point you can use whatever you want and execute PowerShell commands against it. Other options that are available here. So this one is actually the crucial one for all those things. Let me show you. I have now interactive connection to it, and I can use PowerShell sessions and manage Nano server. So this is all for a server manager demo. Any questions about this one? If not, then we will go to the next one, and Jan will present Hyper-V on Nano, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, so let's look at how we can manage the Hyper-V role on Nano server, both using Hyper-V Manager, but also Virtual Machine Manager. So here is the same steps for creating the image. The only differences from the previous demo, where I added the DNS package, is that now I'm adding the compute package, which is Hyper-V. I'm also adding the Virtual Machine Manager agent that's available as well. I think it's currently the only System Center agent that is available, but we expect it to become more agents going forward. So VMM and Hyper-V is enabled. I also enabled clustering and OEM drivers. If you want to use some of the built-in drivers that is in the operating system, also on the server with a desktop experience, you can set OEM drivers to true, and that worked fine on my personal demo environment, where I just have some Intel network card, for example. All of those kind of drivers is included there. But you can also add your own drivers, of course, if you specify a driver path. When that image is created, I applied it to a physical machine using boot from VHDX, which you can find steps on how to do on TechNet. Then we can connect to the machine using PowerShell. Now a quick look at what's available here. So we should see when we run, for example, get module, that the Hyper-V module is there. And when we run get Windows package, we should see that the Hyper-V packages and the VMM agent is available. So the Hyper-V module is available locally, but of course the preferred way to do it is to use it remotely even though it is available. So here you can see the VMM agent and other features that is available there. So this is basically the steps I go through when I enable the Hyper-V role for my computer or my lab server at home. I just enable Hyper-V and VMM, and then create a virtual Hyper-V switch. And it's a pretty simple setup in my environment because I use only one network card for, for the Hyper-V switch. So I just run this command and we'll have a virtual machine switch available. Then I can just go ahead and import my virtual machines. So I loop through the directory where I know that I have my virtual machine stored, look for the configuration files and just import them. So it's basically a matter of a minute to get up and running after reinstalling Nano Server, because now we are on technical preview 4, we will get technical preview 5 and so on, so you'll need to update it every time, but it's really not much work to do that. So here you can use all the familiar commands such as working with volumes and disks. You can use the Hyper-V module to list the available virtual machines, and you can stop and start VMs as you're used to. But you can also, of course, use the Hyper-V Manager MMC console, which you are used to when working with Hyper-V. Just make sure that you have that installed on your local admin machine. Then you will get both the Hyper-V module as well as the Hyper-V Manager. So here you can see Hyper-V Manager. It's actually connected to a Nano Server, so it's the same experience that you're used to. If you go into Hyper-V settings, virtual switch manager, everything is the same that you are used to, only that you're doing it remotely. And also a new feature in Hyper-V Manager for 2016, I believe, is that it's now able to use WSMAN, or the same port as PowerShell remoting, so you don't have to use DCOM or all those other...
They changed the way how they do remote management, and Ben Armstrong, the PM of Hyper-V team, recently has written a blog post about that change, so go to his blog and read about it, because it's a big change. They moved from WMI to WSMAN to support the same protocol as PowerShell remoting.
That
So
also makes it easy to connect with alternate credentials.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the Hyper-V Manager. I also installed the failover clustering on that machine, if you remember that I enabled that in the image. So here I'm going to actually, on the local machine, install the failover clustering management tools, so that failover cluster manager will become available. And then I will create a new cluster using this PowerShell command, new cluster, where I give it a name, point to the Nano Server as the node. Here I could have several Nano Servers if I wanted. And since this is a simple demo, I just don't want to add any storage at this time. So that should go ahead, and I should use a different name. I think I used that previously. And create an Active Directory account for the cluster, and create the cluster as the same way as you're used to. So if I run get cluster, you will now see that the cluster is up and running. And you can also use the failover cluster manager to manage it exactly the way you are used to today when you're running a Hyper-V cluster or a scale-out file server cluster, for example. So here you can go ahead and create new virtual machines that is clustered, add more cluster roles. Here you can see that the node is running 2016 TP4 Tuba, which is Nano Server. And you can go ahead and manage storage and networking as you're used to. But when you are using Hyper-V, at least at a larger scale, you are not using Hyper-V Manager that much. And the same with failover clustering. It's mostly when you're doing troubleshooting that you use those two tools. For day-to-day operations, we typically use Virtual Machine Manager. So you can also add a Nano Server to Virtual Machine Manager. In this environment, I have the technical preview 4 of Virtual Machine Manager 2016 up and running. So I will show you how you can add Nano Server to that. You can use PowerShell, as you can see here, but I'm going to go into the server and just show you that the experience is the same. So here we have Virtual Machine Manager. We go to Fabric, go to the host group called NIC 2016, and choose to add a Hyper-V server. Choose a run as account, and we specify the name of the machine, which I'm going to copy. Let's see. And here we can see that it's discovering actually the cluster running 2016 technical preview 4 Tuva. And it says if the Hyper-V role is not enabled, it will be enabled, but since this is already pre-enabled on the Nano server in this case, it will not do anything. It will just add it. So now we should see that it's being added. The agent was also added when we added the package. So here we should see that the server is being added to VMM, and we should also see virtual machines available in the virtual machines view. So you can basically manage virtual machines and Hyper-V hosts the same way as you do today. There are no need to log on locally to the Nano server host to perform any management of virtual machines. So that's basically the demo of Hyper-V.
As you have seen, thanks to Nano server, they are improving all management tools, which is really beneficial for all of us. It doesn't matter if you just concentrate on Nano or Windows Server. It's just good that they need to improve all the tools. So that really works well. In the next demo, we will talk about how to use PowerShell desired state configuration with Nano Server. What are the steps that we need to perform to enable that first, and then how to use it. The experience once when you have it on a Nano Server should be the same as with any other Windows Server system. So for this demo, I will use a little bit different approach. I will use the image that I already created that doesn't have a DSC package, but I will edit that image to add DSC package to it. So let me show you first again that we have those three functions in the provided Nano Server image generator module. And now I will use edit Nano Server image. When we look into a Nano Server base folder that you will get from the ISO file, you will see that you have lots of different packages to support different features and roles. And DSC is here, so we can use that one. We will use an edit Nano Server image, and you can see also you have a nice example here, so you don't need to search around. It's all here. You just need to use it. Let me switch to my proper folder with the stuff that I need, and I will specify a name for it, IP address, a password, again, and then specify a path that I will use, and I have here command for editing. Actually, so what will I do now is I will add drivers, set a password for it, fix the Nano stack as well, and add DSC package to this image. Once when I have the image, I can build, again, a VM and proceed to desired state configuration. For now, you will see that a little bit later in the demo. While we wait for this, I will just explain that to you, that we have access to all DSC resources that are also present on a Windows Server with the desktop experience, but not all of them are in a working state. The reason for that is that they are dependent on some of the commandlets that are not supported still on Nano Server, or they will not be supported, so they need to rewrite those resources. So one of those commandlets is get WMI object, which is easy fix. They will switch to sim commandlets. But they also have some dependency on add type, and they need to find a way how to work around that. So now when I have the image, I can build a generation 2 VM and start it. Let me just check IP address to see if everything is OK. Again, using invoke command and remote command. So everything is fine. I should get 10.10.0.43. I'm going over PowerShell Direct again here, just to check, because I know that that one works even if I have a problem with my network. And have some problem here, but let me try again. because sometimes it needs to go again to it. Let me just check here. Well, as you can see, it's a preview, right? So enter PS session using a Nano Server IP address and admin credentials. If I type my password correctly, I will establish interactive connection to it. After that, now that I'm there, you can see the prompt has changed. I can see if desired state configuration module is present, and it is, because I added DSC package to it. Let me check what are the commands that are exposed to us, and you can see that all of them that are part of PowerShell 5 are there. So let's check the DSC resources that are present on the machine. It runs a little bit longer, and you will see the familiar list. So if you run this on any other server, not just Nano, you will get the same list. So let me see how can we work in it, because we now, again, need to work remotely, and desired state configuration supports SIM sessions, so we can target our Nano server using Nano SIM sessions. So I will create a Nano SIM session first, just to check if it's OK. It is. Everything is fine. And I will check the status and settings of a local configuration manager on a Nano server remotely using SIM. You can see that it's set to a push mode, apply and monitor, all those default things. For now, the push mode is only supported with the DSC on Nano server. And I will now apply a very simple configuration that will change some registry keys and set some values there. So my configuration looks like this. Nothing spectacular, just example key with some test value and data. Okay? Nothing more than that. But it works. So first I need to run it. I got a MOV file that now I can apply to my Nano server. I will use start DSC configuration, but the point is that I will go remotely with a SIM session to a Nano, and you can see now that it will discover that that registry is not set, and it will fix that and set example key with the proper values there. So everything is done. Desired state configuration works nicely. Everything is fine, and we can check that. We have a get DSC configuration commandlet to check the state there, and you can see the information is there, what we have done, what configuration is applied, and what things are changed. We can also check the status using a SIM session again, and says that it's a successful, everything is cool. So let me show you another demo when I want to configure something using a DSC resource that it's not present on my Nano server. It's not a built-in. I need to edit. So in this demo, what I want to do, I want to change the name of a Nano server. For that, I need to use X computer management module created but still not created by Microsoft, but still not supported by Microsoft. You can find it on a PowerShellGallery.com. So how my configuration looks like? It's very simple again. I just need to specify that I want to import X computer management resource because it's not there. And I also want to specify the one that it's there, but still the recommended and best practice is to specify all the module, all the DSC resources that you will use. Doesn't matter if they are built in or additional. Node with IP address, and I want to just change the name, and new name will be new nano TP403. So let me .source that and run it to produce a MOV file. Now I have a MOV file that I can apply, and I will try to apply it, and it will fail. Why it will fail? Because DSC resource, X computer management, is not there. Okay? When you read an error message, it says exactly that. It does not exist at a PowerShell module path where it's expected. So I need to bring it to Nano server machine if I want to use it. If my Nano server was connected to an internet, the command that I will use is just this. Invoke command, targeting Nano server, specifying credentials, and then using install module xcomputer management-force. That's a new commandlet, part of a PowerShell get module for interacting with the PowerShellGallery.com. If you haven't heard about it before, it's a Microsoft-owned repository for PowerShell artifacts, for PowerShell modules, DSC resources, and scripts. Microsoft contributes there, community as well, other product groups inside of a Microsoft too. So I cannot use that, but I have that because my machine is not connected to internet, but I have that module on my machine, and I will use a copy item to copy that module from my machine to a Nano. So to do that, I need to first create session. And now I can use copy item to copy everything from xcomputer management folder to my destination folder on Nano Server, which is in part of a PS module path variable, using toSession and force. So all those things will just go there. A bunch of files will just flash in front of our eyes, thanks to verbose parameter. And now I have a DSC resource that I need, and I can try and rerun start configuration, changing a name of my Nano server. I get this message here that reboot is needed to apply the new name. So I will use restart computer commandlet. The important thing here is that you need to specify WSMN authentication to negotiate, because I'm working with a workgroup environment. I cannot use Kerberos here, and I will restart a Nano server. And as you can see, it's really, really fast. So the restarting is really fast. If you look at Hyper-V here, it says already that it's running. Okay? So now I can run invoke command to check the status and to see if the name is changed. Usually this works, but sometimes I get a message that I need to specify a new path to change the password, but this time it worked properly, and I'm getting information that the name is changed. All remotely with desired stack configuration without touching Nano server interactively. Isn't that awesome? Great stuff. We wait for that to be improved even more in the future versions. The TP4 is the first one that supports PowerShell DSC. So this is the end of my DSC demo, and we will continue with updating. Is that the next one?
Yep.
Yep. Do you have any questions about DSC and Nano? Do you like how it works? It's very cool, right? And so easy when someone else is doing it.
All right, so the next demo is going to show you how to update a Nano server, basically installing patches from Windows Update or from an internal WSS server. So first we establish connection to the server. I'm using the same machine as we did for the DNS demo to invoke some updates. So the way it currently works is that you have a namespace in WMI called Windows Update. Under there, we have a class called Microsoft Windows Update Operation Session. So you need to create an instance of that. So here I point to sim session and point to the computer name that I specified in the variable. So now we have that instance available in a session. On that instance, there is a method called scan for updates that we can invoke with the arguments. You can see here that it's an online scan, and you want to search for updates that is not installed. So I'm going to invoke that. It will take a few seconds, because now it will go out to Microsoft's update servers on the internet, see what's available and what is not installed. So when that is finished, we should get an object back with the results of the updates that it got back. So in this case, when we run TP4 of 2016, you should see probably a couple of updates that we can install. To install that, we can use another sim method called apply applicable updates. that will install the updates, and then you will need to restart the computer if the updates require it. So basically, if you want to do this on a regular basis, you can either set up a scheduled script that will do those exact commands. You can also integrate it with WSUS. You point to the same registry keys that you're used to when you're configuring group policies, for example, for pointing to an internal WSUS server. So let's see if it comes here. You can also see the packages installed when you run get Windows package on the Nano server afterwards. Then you should see the updates. Here it returns, so let's have a look at how the object looks. We see that we have some updates available. For example, a cumulative update for the TP4 preview. It's a security update. So let's go ahead and install that. And we can also have a look at the console while we do the reboot, so we can see that it's actually installing updates. So this is the console of Nano Server. I will show you a little bit more of that afterwards in my next demo. Just wait until the update is installed, and we will do a quick reboot. And there are also a couple of known issues in the current build, which is TP4. If there are no updates available, it will just return that a general error have occurred. That will obviously get fixed in the upcoming update. And also, if you have Windows Defender installed on Nano Server, that have a lot of definition files that is being installed regularly, and that also breaks this update progress. So as you can see, this is work in progress. It will get there in the end, but currently there are some issues.
Yeah. Recommended right now is to remove Defender, install updates, and then get the Defender back.
So nasty workaround.
It's not the best thing in the world, but this is how it works for a preview, right?
Yeah.
They will fix that.
Yeah. I also expect this to be available to accomplish from the remote server management tool, the web-based tool. There we have an update option, but when you click it in the private preview, you just get the coming soon, so
yes.
It's not available yet. So you can probably do it from the GUI there. But obviously, they will also support management agents such as configuration manager or similar. It's expected that it will be supported, so you can use those routines you use today to patch Nano Server. Yeah, I'll just show you this before I start my next demo, so we don't use any more time waiting for this. So you can go ahead with your next demo.
Okay. In the next one, we will talk about how to build a Nano Server as Azure VM. Now, that's really not that complicated, because first they provided Nano image in Azure Gallery, and also they provided scripts to do that. So you just need to know what you're doing, actually, nothing special. So first you need to authenticate, and the solution that they have is based on Resource Manager. So you need to use those Azure RM commands for everything that you do. Now that I'm authenticated to my Azure subscription, I will build some variables here, set the location for my Nano Server, name for it, and the resource group when I want to put it. So I will create that resource group first, and all the resources that will be part of that installation will go into that resource group. I need also to create a key vault, and key vault is here to support storage of a certificate that I will use for secure connection over HTTPS to my Nano Server. So when it's key vault, it's done, I can proceed to my module that it's provided by Microsoft. You can find it on a Nano Server blog and download it there. They updated it a few times because we filed some bugs for it, so now it's way better. And I can specify a password here that I will use for my Nano Azure VM. And then I will just run that script, that function for creating one. And you will see that it creates a bunch of different things. It specifies the size. It's really small, so I use the basic A1. it will create so key vault is already created. It will apply some NIC, a public IP address, all of those resources that you usually have when you build ARM-based VM. Because it lasts for, usually when it's a sunny day, 5.5 minutes, we will switch back to Jan's demo, and then we will return to see if it's created in the meantime, okay?
Yeah, here you can see that from the previous demo, the applying updates completed. So now we're just going to go ahead and restart the Nano Server machine while we look at the console. So here we can see that it's rebooting pretty soon. There you can see updating your system. So it's using the same updating mechanism as the server with the desktop experience. And when it's updated, it will be rebooted. Yeah. So now you can see that it's coming up and running.
People usually say they really like the fast booting time, but I like the restart.
Yeah.
It just works like in 2 or 3 seconds, and you restart a Nano Server. It's just amazing, really. Sometimes you think that you didn't even press the command. It's like, oh no, it's already there.
So my next demo is about the emergency management services. So someone asked about what will happen if you don't have a network connection. So we have 2 options available. The first one is what's called the recovery console, and that's what you can see when you go to the console of a virtual machine that is running Nano Server, the same that you will see on the console of a physical server. Here you can log on to the recovery console. And it also supports, you can log on with a domain user because this machine is joined to the domain. So here you can see the recovery console where you can see some basic information about the domain, the local time zone, and so on. But you can also, if you scroll a little bit down, you can see that we have some options down here. You can see, first of all, the network interfaces, so you can see the IP address and things like that. But you can go into, for example, networking to configure IP addresses. You can go into firewall to allow or enable or disable firewall rules if those are disabled by mistake, for example. But what happens if you don't? This is very basic. You can do only these 2 things in here. The next thing I'm going to show you is what's called the emergency management services. If you look at a virtual machine that I'm going to use for demonstrating that, you can see that I have disabled the connectivity for the network adapter. So this machine has no network connectivity, so we need to troubleshoot it. And in the demo, I'm using a VM, but this could also be a physical server that we can't reach and need to troubleshoot. Then one of the options available is that we can use a COM port and create, for example, here in Hyper-V, you can create a named pipe. I just call it Nano EMS. You can call it whatever you want. Then you can connect to that COM pipe using a terminal such as PuTTY, for example. So if you open a PuTTY, we load in the Nano EMS settings. Here you can see that the same address is specified with the same speed that I configured in the image. Open that up, and then we are in the emergency console where we have some commands available. So I can type, for example, question mark to get all the commands available, type I to see the state of the network interface cards, but I can also create some CMD channel. So if I do CH/question mark or help, you can basically create a CMD channel. There it's created, and you can enter it by using, I can't remember exactly, CHSI1, I believe. So here you can see that I also need to log on, because you can't just get access to it without authenticating. And there you can see I'm in a CMD window. So here I can do my normal troubleshooting, such as enable the network card or troubleshooting the event logs. So that's basically the end of this demo. Let Aleksandar finish his before we end.
So it looks like Jan is faster than Azure. So provisioning of Nano Server is still running. So it will probably finish in like 30 seconds. In the meantime, I prepared another machine already because I want to show you the experience with adding packages and working with DSC on a Nano VM because it's a little bit different. So here I have another Nano Server that is built exactly the same. The only difference is just the name. So it's not 08, it's 07. So first what I need to get is the IP address of that machine, and I will put that into public IP variable, so I can then build a URL for making a connection. So if you can see here, what I have here is actually connection with a SSL port for WinRM remoting, and I can specify also my password here. So many passwords today. And establish interactive connection. So when the session is created, I can go into it, but we need to wait a little. If everything is fine, let me check here what's happening. In the meantime, the machine that we wanted to provision is done. So as you can see here, we have Nano 8 here, and I can also show you here that if I refresh here, I have Nano 8 as well and Nano 7 running, okay? So let's go back to see if a session is created. It is. I can do interactive session now, and I can prove to you that it's a Nano Server, or you can just trust me. But let's just check. See, it is Nano Server. And if you look at the available modules, you can see here that the DSC module is not there. So we need to add it. We can use a get Windows package to see what are the packages that are online already. And you will see some new packages that are created specifically for Nano servers in Azure. So the first thing that you will notice here that the KB fix is already present, and you have some Azure provisioning package. You will not use that one. You will not have access to that one. This is a part of a prepared image that is part of a gallery in Azure that you will use. Okay? So now, to make it easier for us to add packages, they have on a root, on a C, a packages folder with all the packages that we can use and add. Okay? So that's the way how we do it. And we use add Windows package, specify a path to a DSC package, and add it to our system. So once when we have it, the module will be available, and we can continue using DSC against this Nano server in Azure VM. So this is how it works. As you can see, it's really exciting. You can do a lot of different things with Nano in a client, in a VM scenarios, on a physical machines, in Azure. Things are getting better and better. You can run you can run containers in Hyper-V. There's a lot of demos that we can show, so we just have 1 hour. It's not enough.
So here we have some resources for you. The slides will be is already shared on OneDrive. So if you check my Twitter at Jan Egil Ring, you should see that it's already tweeted there, I think. We also have some other resources.
So for other resources, you should watch some TechNet and Ignite presentations when Jeffrey Snover and Andrew Mason, PM for Nano Server, announced and talk about Nano Server. Always follow Nano Server blog. They put a lot of interesting information there and helpful scripts and stuff. Getting started with Nano Server is the #1 document for working with Nano Server. You also have a bunch of different videos on channel 9 showing you different scenarios for working with Nano, from developer experience, with the bare metal installations and all the other stuff. Really, really great content. Short videos, no more than 10 minutes or 11 minutes. So it's not a lot of time that you will spend on it. And I really recommend you to go to Microsoft Virtual Academy and look for a deep dive into Nano Server training course delivered by Andrew Mason and Refat Isa, who is also PM at Nano Server team. Great, great training. So with that, we will finish our session.
Yeah, just a final slide before we end. Our fellow speaker here, Olo Tvedt, he's doing a campaign called Geeks Who Care for the children in Syria, so just check out the URL. Yeah,
and with that, we will finish our session.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
if
you.
you have some questions about Nano, we are available in the Expo Hall.
Yeah.
Thank you.